Good evening, family. It's your boy, Dante Pryor, aka the Professor, BKA the Human Almanac. Flying solo tonight. The fam will hopefully be back on next week. So tonight's show we want to go through some headlines, kind of as we're on the other side of signing day. Hopefully, we're at the end of the coaching carousel. The NFL sometimes has influence over that. We're going to talk Jalen Hurts and Pat Mahomes as college prospects, and then we're going to end the show tonight talking about our top 5 college football prospects at the quarterback position. Please drop your comments below. Let me hear what's on your mind. By all means, please interact with the show this evening. So let's get started with some headlines. So let's talk about the coaching carousel. I do believe finally, unless there's a shocking NFL firing or hiring, that the coaching carousel for the college football season should be over. I believe all of the head coaching vacancies has been filled, and then also all of the coordinator vacancies have been filled as well. So let's start with the Alabama Crimson Tide. Alabama has hired former Notre Dame offensive coordinator Tommy Rees and veteran defensive coordinator Kevin Steele. Now, for the sake of self promotion here, if you go to SaturdayBlitz.com, I did write an article about some questions that Alabama has to answer this offseason heading into the 2023 season. So Tommy Rees, number one, Tommy Rees from Notre Dame. I think you're going to see more of the NFL influence from Rees at Alabama. I mean, listen, here's the thing. Nick Saban recruits coordinators as well as he recruits players. So I know Notre Dame fans are probably a little upset that Tommy Rees left, but at the same time, you do have to consider the fact that Tommy Rees was the guy who didn't get the head coaching job at Notre Dame. It was between Rees and Marcus Freeman, and they went with Freeman over Rees. And Rees was the former player and alum of Notre Dame, so I can kind of see why he'd want to leave. The payday's probably a little bit better down in Tuscaloosa than it is up in South Bend, and he'll get to coach better players. So one of the things that Rees is going to have to figure out is who's going to play quarterback. He's got 3 blue chippers to choose from, whether it be Jalen Milroe, Ty Simpson, or Eli Holstein. I'll tell you, I think Holstein is probably the future. Would not shock me in the least if Holstein is second or third on the depth chart. Now, Jalen Milroe is interesting because he did take reps at wide receiver during Sugar Bowl practice and in the Sugar Bowl. So it does look like Alabama's going to lean towards Ty Simpson, who's a guy who's as dangerous with his arm as he is with his legs as well. And he's a more refined passer than Milroe, which kind of leads to the second thing. The second thing was with who's going to step up at receiver for the Crimson Tide. Jermaine Burton did not work the way they thought he would coming in from Georgia. Tyler Harrell, they got from Louisville, spent most of his season injured. He's transferred to Texas. So they're also looking at younger guys like Corey Brooks, Isaiah Bond. So we'll see. And here's the thing. I know people just kind of make this assumption that because it's Alabama and they had a quote-unquote down year. I mean, they won 11 games and won the Sugar Bowl, but we're talking Bama. So when you talk Bama, you're talking Natties, and they did not go to the college football playoff for the second time in 4 years. So in that regard, I do think you have to consider some of these questions, and a lot of those questions are on offense. They're going to have to replace 2 guys in the backfield, one of which is Jahmyr Gibbs. And the offensive line hasn't been a championship-level offensive line for a couple of years. I think that'll change with Tommy Rees, because one thing about Notre Dame is that they play very well in the trenches. So they go with veteran defensive coordinator Kevin Steele, who worked with Nick Saban in the past, who was also Nick Saban's nemesis when he was the defensive coordinator at Auburn. So one thing about Kevin Steele, we know 2 things Kevin Steele can recruit. He recruited the guys like Nick Fairley, um, and so he can recruit the trenches, and we know he can coach defense. So the really the two big things that you want to see out of the Alabama defense going into next season is replacing so many guys. They're going to replace 9 starters, including Will Anderson and Henry To'o. So they've got guys to replace. Who is going to be the really good DB? One thing that Alabama did a really good job of last season is getting to the quarterback, and their ability to rush the passer kind of compensated for the fact that the secondary was not elite last season. And the two teams that were able to block them made plays down the field in LSU and Tennessee. So let's see if Kevin Steele fixed that. So as we go on, so since Tommy Rees left Notre Dame, Notre Dame needed an offensive coordinator. They promote tight end coach Gerard Parker, the offensive coordinator, Andy Ludwig and Colin Klein. Andy Ludwig, Utah, Colin Klein, Kansas State were candidates for the position. There's a little bit of controversy about why Andy Ludwig ended up back in Utah, according to Heather Dinich, ESPN. Um, it was not an issue with the buyout. Andy Ludwig felt like he had a better situation in Utah, and probably, they probably sweetened the pot a little bit for him to stay down out in Salt Lake City. Probably the same thing with Colin Klein. So uh, Freeman promotes internally with Gerard Parker at offensive coordinator. Probably as big a loss as the OC, longtime offensive line coach and former Joe Moore, pardon me, award winner Harry Highstand retires as the offensive line coach for Notre Dame. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see who replaces Highstand as the O line coach. Um, I'm a little old school, and you see me kind of representing the old school Four Horsemen, Rick Flair, the Four Horsemen here this evening. But here's the thing, it used to be a time you go into the CD store and you buy the CD off the one single, and everything else is silent scene. I'm gonna tell you, when it came to football, Notre Dame offensive lineman, give me one silent scene. High stands the O line coach. Those guys know how to block, invert both run block and pass pro. So it's gonna be interesting to see how they make those changes. So we do um, University of Miami let go of Josh Gaddis. He goes from being the Broyles Award winner to being out of a job one season in Miami, and it just didn't work. I mean, there's no other way to say it. Um, Rhett Lashley was the offensive coordinator before Gaddis, and Tyler Van Dyke had great success under Lashley. Lashley goes to SMU. You bring in Josh Gaddis. A lot of injuries on the offense, in addition to learning a completely new, more pro style system. I think head coach Mario Cristobal wanted a little bit of that Michigan physicality that they had when Gaddis was at Michigan, but it didn't work. So they named Shannon Dawson the new offensive coordinator. If you don't know who Shannon Dawson is, Shannon Dawson was the offensive coordinator at Houston. He is fairly young, 45. Um, Dawson also spent time coaching Southern Miss. I think the big question out of Corey Gables is how hands off is Cristobal going to be with the offense? He was the offensive coordinator at Oregon under Willie Taggart. Taggart left Florida State. He got promoted. Um, he's an online coach, offensive coordinator, going all the way back to his days as a player at Miami and through his coaching career. It's going to be interesting to see how hands off Mario Cristobal is going to be. And if there's any knock on Cristobal, it is that one, is that he maybe a little too hands on with the offense. Um, let's switch Couple more headlines here. In addition to the OC, uh, so there are 2 signing days. We just had the February signing day, a little bit more than a week ago. It was not very dramatic because all of the big signees, they signed in the early signing day in December. But there are 2 guys worth mentioning here. They're just complete monsters. Ironically enough, both of them are tight ends, but I will say, Nick Harbor, who is a tight end slash defensive end, he's really an athlete. Um, Nick Harbor is one of the more intriguing prospects, I would argue, maybe since Jadeveon Clowney. Here's a guy, 6'5", 6'6", 230 pounds. He ran a 10-2 100-yard dash in the state championship in high school. He is from the Maryland, DC area. It He has signed with the University of South Carolina. Shane Beamer down there doing work. Listen, Nick Harbor wants to run track in addition to playing football. He has the potential to be an Olympic sprinter at his size. I heard a lot of people say, "Where do you put him?" Why don't you put him at wide receiver? So you know he can catch the football. And I mean, he's got sprinter speed at that side. I mean, he's DJ Metcalf. He's DK Metcalf. Put him at receiver. Um, he's interesting. Another tight end prospect, Deuce Robinson. He's got a big crystal ball to USC, but Georgia's still in play. And I think maybe USC has a bit of an edge here because Todd Monken left to go be the offensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. So Mike Bobo steps in at Georgia as offensive coordinator. And although you do not have, you still got Brock Bowers there, but Darnell Washington's off to the NFL. So there, trust me, a guy like Deuce Robinson, he's gonna find snaps. He's too good not to. So Deuce looks like he may be headed to Hollywood to go play for Lincoln Riley out at SC. So those are some headlines to get caught up on uh, through the week. Ironically enough, it's the end of February, and we have had one school begin spring practice. College football is trying their best to be like the NFL and have a year-round schedule. So Bowling Green has started spring practice, by the way. Just in case if you are a fan of the Eagles, excuse me, the Falcons in Southern Ohio. So let's transition. Let's move on a little bit. And I want to talk a little bit about the Super Bowl. And I want to give a bit of a hot take. I've expressed this, so I'm going to express it now. Patrick Mahomes is the greatest quarterback I've ever seen. Right now, I believe Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback to ever play the game. How could you say such a thing about someone who's 27 years old? Well, so if you think of the 3 major sports: baseball, football, and basketball. Baseball is a numbers game. Okay, when you think about all-time greats, it's always by the numbers. That's why even to this day, there's an argument that Babe Ruth is still the greatest baseball player of all time. The guy has over 600 home runs, and I want to say if he doesn't have, he's close to 100 wins as a pitcher. And the game hasn't really changed that much since he played. The only thing is ballparks have gotten smaller, and there's a such thing as spring training now. But when you think about baseball, 3,000 hits, 600 homers, 250, 300 wins as a pitcher, you think of the statistics, you think of the numbers. Basketball kind of has a bit of an identity crisis when it comes to measuring its greatness, but football is the eye test. Football is all about what you see on the field. And I realize in some respects that you see Patrick Mahomes and you say, well, he hasn't accomplished. Well, if that's your argument, well, let's start with a couple things. So, two guys widely regarded as the best quarterbacks of all time, Tom Brady and Joe Montana. And forgive me, y'all, I know this is a college football show. We're gonna get to that. But they're both of them are three-time all pro first team. Mahomes at 27, the two-time all pro first team. And Tom Brady was not a first team all pro until he was 30. Um, he's halfway to Montana. He's got two Super Bowls already. I want to say what's got 4 or 5 consecutive AFC Championship game appearances. Um, and I see one comment. He doesn't have 5 rings yet. So here's my thing. It's fine if you feel this way. So the question is, are you talking accomplishments or eye test? Because when you say that and you want to argue Montana, you want to argue Tom Brady, I don't think you can watch Tom Brady play football and watch Patrick Mahomes play football and think that Tom Brady is better than Patrick Mahomes at playing football. It's just not true. He's not the athlete Mahomes is. He doesn't have the arm. He has the accomplishments, but eye test once again. Because if that's your argument, then are you telling me that Emmitt Smith is the best running back to play football? He is the NFL's all-time leading rusher, and not many people outside of the Dallas-Fort Worth area think that Emmitt Smith is the best running back to ever play the game. There are people that will argue where I live. There are people that will argue that Walter Payton is the best. My daddy, God rest his soul, will argue to the nose that Jim Brown was the best. So it's about what you see. And that's where I'm coming from on this. When you watch Pat Mahomes play, my question is, when you go through all of the legendary quarterbacks, what can he do, or what can they do that he cannot with a football? And my answer is simple. I don't think there's anything that that he can do that those all-time greats can do that he can do anything he wants. He is Jordan with the football. I don't know if people saw that when he came out of Texas Tech. So I guess when you go back and you talk about Mahomes as the quarterback of Texas Tech, he was a strong-armed, somewhat erratic passer who was a great athlete. So just FYI, a lot of people say, how does he end up at Texas Tech? Coming out of high school, a lot of people thought he was going to play baseball like his dad because he was an outstanding baseball player. He really didn't commit to playing football until somewhat late in the process, and he was a bit unrefined as a football player. So Texas Tech signed him. Cliff Kingsbury got him down there in Lubbock, and just like every other Texas Tech quarterback, when Mike Leach took over back in the day, he put up numbers, and I remember the performance he had against Oklahoma. And here's the thing: the writing was on the wall to the point where Baker Mayfield left and walked on at Oklahoma. So when you saw Patrick Mahomes, you did see steady improvement as a college prospect. But in some ways, he's a one of one like Josh Allen. Um, but Mahomes is also proof that situation matters as much as talent moving up to the next level. I mean, you couldn't ask for a much better situation when you talk about Mahomes going to Kansas City. They have a very good veteran quarterback in Alex Smith. You've got a proven coach in Andy Reid who had been to a Super Bowl with Philadelphia, had gotten Kansas City deep into the playoffs a couple times, and then here comes Mahomes. He's able to sit. He's able to learn under Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy and Charles Nagy, who was there at the time. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, maybe either Frank Reich or Doug Peterson was also on that staff. So you're in a great situation. You're in a stable situation. You go to a franchise um, that has played consistent winning football. We just had to get over the hump of the championship. This is a franchise that is established. You had an established coach. Like it is something trying to develop a young quarterback when you're coaching for your job, right? So he goes to a great situation, and they look at his skill set, and wow, they do this crazy thing. They develop the talent around him based on his skills. And Patrick Mahomes, if you listen to the coaches talk about him, he has this thirst to be great. And that's why you get what you get in Mahomes now as a pro. He's not a prodigy. By no means was he a Peyton Manning coming to the league where you just kinda knew. And once again, Mahomes, first round pick, top of the first round, but not the number 1 pick in the draft. I believe there are different expectations when you're the number 1 pick in the draft. I always felt very strongly that Jalen Hurts would be a better pro than he was in college. And let's get some things straight. Jalen Hurts was an outstanding college quarterback. People can say whatever they want, but here's the truth. Jalen Hurts had 3 offensive coordinators in 3 years at Alabama. That's number 1. Jalen Hurts was the SEC Offensive Freshman of the Year and led the Crimson Tide with no elite receivers other than Calvin Ridley to the national championship game as a true freshman. He just happened to run into Deshaun Watson. Yes, was he benched for Tua? Absolutely. But what Tua did fit what Alabama needed more at that time. But it's hard when you have to adjust offensive philosophies in 3 consecutive seasons. He gets to Norman, really only has CeeDee Lamb to throw to, has an outstanding season, runner up for the Heisman Trophy. You kind of saw, even in his last season at Alabama, where he came in and saved their bacon a couple times when Tua got hurt, but you saw him improve as a passer at Oklahoma. And I just kind of said to myself, if he go and listen, I believe all of those things. And I know we're praising Mahomes, but don't get it twisted. Jalen Hurts as a second year pro in the Super Bowl, he was phenomenal for the Eagles. The Eagles lost, but it wasn't because of Jalen Hurts. And I thought, son of a coach, obviously successful in 4 different offensive schemes. So he knows how to learn and absorb a playbook. He just needed the right situation. So he goes into Philly, and I'm gonna be honest. I see this interview with Nick Sirianni, and I'm like, this dude can't even talk. How is he gonna coach? Apparently, Nick Sirianni is an outstanding football coach. He's good at coaching football, and he goes into the situation, and wow, this innovative thing. You draft a guy, you want to see if he's the franchise, so you build a team around the skill set. You bring the power running game, and when Jalen Hurts was most successful at the college level, it was with a power running game as its base philosophy. You get him a good tight end. You go get AJ Brown. You get Devonta Smith at wide receiver. You build this monster like defense, and wow, he's successful in the NFL. But he's showing progression. Because here's the thing, you bring back a staff the second year in a row for Jalen Hurts, and it matters. The stability that Patrick Mahomes has had with the coaching staff. Because the NFL, one of the big key differences is you have more turnover year by year with your personnel, with your player personnel in the pros than you do in college. But as an NFL prospect, I think people saw Jalen Hurts as someone limited. They did not think he had an elite arm. And I don't know if Jalen Hurts' arm is elite, but it's pro level. He can make all the throws you need him to throw in the offense, and he proved that in the Super Bowl. And I think it matters that Jalen Hurts has played a lot of football. Patrick Mahomes played a lot of football in college too. Listen, reps matter, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more when we go and talk about our 5 QB prospects. But playing a lot of football matters. And yes, is it a different game? Absolutely. Think about something. as minuscule as the hash marks in college, and the fact that they're wider and what you can do with spread offenses in college that you cannot in the pros because the hash marks are equidistant to the sideline in the NFL. But the fact that Jalen Hurts played in the college football playoff every year that he was in college, he played on the biggest stage at the highest level of Division One college football. There's not a whole lot of difference between playing in front of 80,000, 70,000 people in the Caesar's Palace Superdome in New Orleans as there is playing in front of that same number of people in Glendale at State Farm Stadium. He knows what those bright lights are, and the young man just doesn't get rattled. He just doesn't. And I'm going to tell you, if you can keep that same personnel type, you may not be able to keep the players, but if you keep that same personnel type, and they can add, because not only is Jalen Hurts on a rookie deal, he is on a rookie deal as a second rounder. So if I'm not mistaken, he gets the extra year as a second rounder. The first rounders don't get, so they get to keep him at a lower salary a little bit longer than they would if he were a high round draft. So they can continue to build around Jalen Hurts. And I think both Philadelphia and Kansas City has proven that they're going to be here for a while. As long as they got 15, they're going to be here for a while. And I think with Jalen Hurts, barring serious injury, I think Philadelphia is going to be there for a while. I really felt that Jalen would be a better pro than he was a college player. Very somewhat reminiscent of Justin Herbert. I felt Justin Herbert would be a better pro than he was at Oregon. As we as we come into the home stretch, um, so season's over. Georgia's national champion. Signing day is over. Coaching carousel's over. So now we're in the postseason All-Star game draft process for these prospects. And here's the truth. Everybody wants to know where the quarterbacks are going. That's a very good question. And if I'm not mistaken, Philadelphia has 2 years to figure that out. And I think if they contend another year or two, they'd be foolish not to pay him enough to keep him. And very similar to what's going on in Baltimore, the Ravens will be foolish not to pay Lamar Jackson. Here's the thing. When you oh no, y'all got the questions. Y'all got the questions. Okay. Okay. Yes, Stetson Bennett will get drafted. Absolutely. Um just because you asked, first of all, let me tell you about Stetson Bennett. When Stetson Bennett go with his boys to the hood in Athens and get faded up, Stetson unstoppable. When I saw Stetson had that nice little blend up with his helmet off, him and Lad McConkey, I'm like, oh, Stetson about to go to work. Okay, but seriously, this is why Stetson's going to get drafted. Number one, you like Stetson. He was not a limiting factor this season. Georgia traditionally has like 3 or 4 thoroughbreds at running back. There was no Sonny Michel. I'm getting to that. There was no Sonny Michel. There was no Nick Chubb in the backfield, and it was Stetson Bennett and his ability to throw. Now he had monsters. You're talking about Lad McConkey. You're talking about Brock Bowers, my man from Naples, California. You're talking about Darnell Washington. Um, AD Adonai Mitchell came back in the postseason, so he had weapons. But he was the reason that Georgia was as good on offense as they were. Size is not a skill. You can't hit what you can't catch. Stetson's gonna test well when he goes to the combine. Now, if he's smart, he'll get measured and he'll run. And he'll throw at his pro day. But what is gonna impress NFL scouts about Stetson are the interviews and when you put him on the chalkboard. And his pro day, he'll be able to throw to his guys in a controlled environment. And at earliest, I see Stetson going in the 4th round. And I think Stetson is a guy because of his confidence, his swag, and his ability to learn an offense. I believe he can have a Colt McCoy-like career in the pros, where he's a guy you're starting quarterbacks out for a month. He can come in and start some games for you, and you not lose a lot. Do I think Stetson Bennett can be a full-time starting quarterback at the next level? No. Um, I don't know if the arm is elite enough. I don't think the skill set is. I think the skill set is good, but I don't think the skill set is great. Um, the usually the big difference between a backup quarterback and a starting quarterback is that backup quarterbacks are missing. No, no, Johnny was awful. Here's that's a good. I'm glad you brought that up. Here's the difference between Stetson Bennett, Colt McCoy, Johnny Manziel, and I'll even throw in Baker Mayfield. You're talking about four guys, size-wise, who are about the same, somewhere between 5'10" and 6'1". Manziel, and Kevin Sumlin kind of says this without saying it. Johnny Manziel can learn the playbook. That's why you saw Johnny Manziel and live the way he did at Texas A&M. But when you watch him play at A&M, and I said the same thing about Baker Mayfield, although I felt Baker could be a good starter in the NFL. And he's been a decent starter in the NFL. Cleveland had success with Baker Mayfield at quarterback, but they're factors that you need for Baker to be successful. But here's the thing about Manziel. When you watched all that running around and whatnot that Johnny Manziel did when he was at Texas A&M, you said to yourself, well, he's not fast. He wasn't. He didn't run very well at the combine. And it's like when he plays against guys, when he plays against linebackers who run a 4.5, he's not going to look fast. And when he went to the NFL, he didn't look fast because the games he did not have the game speed to do the scrambling and the running around in the pros like he did at Texas A&M. And then also, quite frankly, I mean, Johnny Manziel really didn't take the game seriously. He came from money. Always knew he would have money if it didn't work out for him. And he kind of had very much a laissez-faire attitude about the game. And that showed in his lack of preparation while he was in the league. But no, I think Stetson Bennett could stick in the NFL for a decade as a quality QB2 spot starter option. I really do believe that. So let me get to my top 5 quarterback prospects. So enjoyed the question. Let me just go on the record as saying my reasonings for these is why I could never be an NFL GM. I would never want to draft a quarterback because I just got issues. I got trust issues, and I don't know if I would ever draft one because I would always look at the deficits. But we're gonna go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So I got 2 at 5, and I couldn't decide, so I put them both on my list. Anthony Richardson and Will Levis are kind of 5A and 5B for me. These are guys that have tools and elite tools. Will Levis never really broke the bad habit of throwing to the wrong jersey. Last season he had 19 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. He had a great junior year, but he still threw 7 picks. So I want to say 26 touchdowns as a junior. So that's kind of problem one with Will Levis. And when I first saw him play, when he transferred from Penn State, he made like 3 throws in a row. I'm like, man, why couldn't he beat out Sean Clifford? And then I saw the 4th throw. I'm like, oh, that's why he couldn't beat out Sean Clifford. And here's the thing. When you look at Will Levis, a lot of people look at Josh Allen. And this is my issue with trying to compare Will Levis and Josh Allen. Josh Allen was extraordinarily average when he was at Wyoming. And the 2 games I watched him play were against Big Ten teams. I saw him play, I believe, Iowa. And once he played Minnesota, and he was awful. But Josh Allen, what he's been able to do with his development and improvement is a one of one. It's never happened in the pros. There's never been a guy completing 55 to 60% of his passes as a college quarterback, turnover prone as he was at Wyoming, to come and not only be more accurate, better ball placement, but also less turnover prone and become an elite thrower of the football. And that Josh Allen is truly a one of one. My thing is, if you think Will Levis can do that, I don't think you take Will Levis in the first round. Because if you're taking Will Levis in the first round, you're saying that you expect Will Levis to start sooner rather than later. And I don't think you do that. And I think there's going to be a team who's going to fall in love with Will Levis in shorts and a t-shirt, and they're going to be sorely disappointed. So I need to apologize to Cam Newton because I saw that Florida Utah game, and I said Anthony Richardson is the love child of Cam Newton and Vince Young. I need to apologize to Vince Young as well. Um, Same thing. I mean, 6'4", 230, ridiculous speed, elite arm talent, but these are tools. And if you're going to take a toolsy guy that's unrefined and undeveloped, you need to take him in the second or third round, and you need to have some solidity. Solidity. I just made that word up. You need to be solidified at quarterback and solidified as if a team is smart. Yes. No, he won't. And it wouldn't shock me if Levis went top 10, but he shouldn't. He should. It's because people don't learn is why Levis will go early. People don't learn. They go back to the Jared Goff Carson Wentz draft. Okay, those guys were 15 or 20 on most big boards and went in the top 5 picks. You don't reach for prospects. There are too many prospects at other positions better than Will Levis and Anthony Richardson. There's enough data over the last 20. Rex Grossman got the Bears to a Super Bowl. Brad Johnson has a ring. Rich Gannon got the Raiders to a Super Bowl. My man Jake Delhomme got the Panthers to a Super Bowl. You you don't you now if you don't have that franchise quarterback, a lot of things have to go your way. Health, elite defense, receivers to make your quarterback look good, great running game, A1 protect. You got to have all those things go well, but you can do it. And the truth is, if you are a bad football team, that means you need to manage that roster, and your roster needs to get better. Okay. But yes, I would not draft Will Levis. I would draft Will Levis in the first 2 rounds. He's way too inconsistent with the football. And if you're expecting him to do what Josh Allen did, I don't know if I make that bet because no one's ever really done it, specifically to the level in which Josh Allen has improved from a college prospect to a starting quarterback in the NFL. And no one's ever had a year 1 to year 2 improvement the way Josh Allen did. I don't know if I would make that bet because you don't have to, which is number one reason I wouldn't. And same thing with Anthony Richardson. And Anthony Richardson falls into that data set of guys who haven't played a lot of football. Every NFL draft pick is a crapshoot. But here's the truth. We have enough data to let us know that quarterbacks who only play 1 year as the starter don't succeed at the rate of guys who played 15 to 20 plus starts. Okay. Look at Sam Darnold. Look at how he struggled as a pro. Fewer than 20 starts. Came in late as a redshirt freshman. Was thrown to the wrong jersey as a redshirt sophomore. Struggled in the league. Zach Wilson, pretty much same thing. But when you got grown men blocking for you on the college level, all them 30-year-olds, they head coming off Mormon missions, blocking for Zach Wilson, and he could throw people airplanes because they'll protect him all day. Mark Sanchez is another one out of USC. 1 year starter, did not have a great pro career. Keely Smith, 1 year starter coming out of Oregon. Now he had some injury issues and went to a bad situation in Cincinnati, but that data set holds. You want guys that have reps. And I don't think Anthony Richardson is playing enough football. And he's a guy, if you're going to bet on those tools, you bet on those tools in the third or fourth round and see if you can develop him into something. But you need to be solid as an organization and solid at the quarterback position where he can sit for a couple years before you have to start him. My number 4 guy is Malik Cunningham. My biggest concern about Cunningham are the injuries. He's really been injury prone the last couple of years. And one thing that holds true that if you get hurt in college, you get hurt in the pros. But I think Cunningham has all the tools that you want uh, from the modern NFL quarterback. He is dangerous with his legs. He's not exclusively. He's not a Lamar. I mean, he went to Louisville, ironically enough, but he's not a running quarterback. He can play from the pocket. He's proven that. Um, Great accuracy, ball placement, very good arm. I don't think the arm talent special, but I'll be honest with you. I don't think any quarterback in this draft has special arm talent. Dare I say, Mahomesian arm talent. Josh Allensian. I don't know if that works, but they don't have Josh Allen sort of arm talent. If you take my meaning, but he can. Um, there has to be a little transition with Cunningham in somewhat of an RPO spread heavy system that he ran with Scott Satterfield in Louisville. But I think from a tools perspective, I do think there's a lot to work with. I know people are gonna be turned off because Hendon Hooker had the knee injury, but Hendon Hooker's my third prospect. Um, Cast off from Virginia Tech. Decisions like that is what got Justin Fuente fired down there in Blacksburg. But I think Hendon Hooker, the age doesn't bother me. Tom Brady just played till he was 45. Drew Brees, although he was cooked, Drew was cooked this last year, but he played well. He was solid at 40. Philip Rivers played to almost 40. So the age doesn't bother me. The rules now favor quarterbacks. You can't hit them as hard as you used to. The assumed risk variance is less at quarterback than it's ever been. So I don't have an issue that he's going to be 26 by the start of the 2023 NFL season. I don't have an issue with that. He's played solid football his entire. I mean, he was good at Virginia Tech before they let him walk. He proved that he could play when he went to Tennessee. He lit it up this season. Give him time to rehab the knee, and I think he's a guy that I actually believe in the right situation. The knee, he had the ACL injury, so he won't go through the full process. But I think if you're a franchise that has a guy that you're going to start in a year, start next season, you can redshirt him this year and start him in 24. I really think Hendon Hooker can plug and play almost immediately. He's shown adaptability. I mean, two almost completely different systems between Virginia Tech and Tennessee. So he can adapt to a system, absorb a playbook. Great athlete. I think Hendon Hooker has an elite arm. He's got an NFL caliber arm. He can make every throw you want. And really, what you want to let him go to the combine. He'll get measured. I think you'll like the measurables as far as height and weight. And then let them doctors take a look at the knee, make sure it's healing well. This is an ACL injury in 2023. I mean, people are coming off ACLs for 6 to 8 months of playing, so I don't think that should be an issue. You may have trepidation about the offense that he played in. That veer and shoot offense is not one that many quarterbacks have had success with. Robert Griffin III was by far the most successful, and I'll contend anyone. Robert Griffin III was not a bust; he just got hurt. And there was a whole bunch of drama in Washington. But a lot of the reasons for RG3's injuries are actually my trepidation for my number one prospect. Number two is CJ Stroud. I think CJ Stroud made a lot of money in the college football playoff playing the way he played against Georgia. Um, he's intriguing. I know people do have some issues with Ryan Day's offense and its transference to the next level. I think that development curve pretty much applies to the vast majority of quarterbacks that you draft. He is basically, um, he's a paint by numbers quarterback. So if you tell him where to go with the football, he'll go there. But he showed some creativity and he showed the ability to freelance, what you need in the NFL when contain breaks down. He showed an ability to not only move in the pocket, but make plays with his legs, which you need in the modern NFL game as well. You like the size. He's gonna measure well. Don't know how well he's gonna run. And then if he's smart, like most top of top of the draft quarterbacks will be. They're not going to throw at the combine. The guys who are projected, you know, outside of the top 100, those are the guys who throw at the combine. He's a top 10 pick. He'll throw his pro day. He's going to look great. See, he is extraordinarily accurate. He puts the ball on guys, so you like the accuracy and the ball placement from Stroud. You like the pocket presence. He is a true pocket passer who shown the ability to make plays outside of the pocket, specifically in the Georgia game. I know the question is going to be, why haven't we seen it for more of his career? I think one of those answers is pretty simple. When you have the guys he's had to throw to hand off to, you don't really need to run. And then also, I do think that the black quarterback stereotype is at play here. Now, last season he had the shoulder, and he didn't want to run. They didn't want him to run because they didn't want him to mess up the shoulder worse. But I do think there's this overwhelming uh, uh, idea that black quarterbacks got to prove that they can play from the pocket, and that's another reason why he did what he did. But I think C.J. Stroud is a guy who can play and will be a good pro at the next level. My number one prospect is Bryce Jordan Mahomes Young. He is. I believe Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud are the two best prospects in this draft. I don't think it's close. I think there's some separation between them and my third prospect. I think it's separation between them and Joe and Hendon Hooker. Um, but Bryce has everything you want in a quarterback. He's leader guy. He's proven that. He's tough as nails. Um, he can make every throw in the book. I think he has a very good arm. I don't think it's elite, but he can get the ball where it needs to be. When it needs to get there, he's shown all of the intangibles as a leader and an example. His teammates absolutely love him. I am curious to see how he measures at the combine. Because the one thing that concerned me about Robert Griffin III, with all of the tools that he had, he measured the combine. He was 5'10", 185. And I think, you look at his injury issues. You look at Kyler Murray, who's now starting to have those injury issues. That would be my concern. So what do? You build a wall in front of him. I do think there is some crickets with the straights when it comes to shorter quarterbacks. You're not going to have the ability to straight drop back. You're going to have to move so he can find lanes to throw to. Defenses can adjust to that. But once again, that's when you just go find a whole bunch of dudes that are 6'4" to throw to. So, but yeah, I think Bryce Young is the best prospect in this draft. He plays a style where he can make plays when contained breaks down. He had to this season because his receivers could not get separation. So he had to wait on guys to get open a lot longer than he had to the year before. The bust factor oh wow, 5 being high bust potential. So I would say Anthony Richardson and Will Levis are 5s as far as bust potential. I would say Hendon Hooker and Malik Cunningham are about a 3, but I think with Cunningham, it's the health that may derail him. I'm not concerned, and I think Hooker is the transition to a more pro style offense where you're not spreading receivers out to the numbers like you do in that hyper veer and shoot offense. I think with Bryce and CJ, they're around a 2 or a 3. I would have a higher buzz factor on Bryce than I do CJ. That's because CJ is going to probably be about 6'3", 6'4", about 215, 220. I think Nick Saban and the crew got Bryce in Tuscaloosa eating chickens and pizzas and bread, trying to get him up to 200 pounds. But that would be my fear. That's why I would probably give Bryce about a 3 because he's small. I mean, he's like when you look at Russ. Russ is 5'10", but he's like built like a tree trunk. And when God bless Russ early in his career with Seattle, he did know how to run out of bounds and slide. He kind of forgot that towards the back half of his career, but um, that would be the size if Bryce is 5'10", 185. I think that could derail his career early. So listen, guys, thank y'all for sharing this time with me. I appreciate it. The band will be back together next Thursday. You can follow me on Twitter at Pastor DDP. You can find me on Instagram, Prior to Good Kid. Uh, look for my writings on two places. Well, in two places, SaturdayBlitz.com. I just completed 3 burning questions for Alabama. Um, I am working on a piece that should be up this week about the Florida schools rebuilding and kind of who's in the lead of that race. And I just put up 2 articles on mtmvpn.com, which is the blog site for my team, My Voice Sports. I highlighted Aubrey Miller and Isaiah Land as BCU prospects, and then taking full advantage of the Senior Bowl process. And I talked about the Mahomes Hurts their performances in the Super Bowl. So listen, guys, God bless y'all. Keep y'all have a smile upon you. It was good hanging out with y'all, and I will see y'all next Thursday.